Okay.
Good morning. It's Judge Pottage here with Simon of Holden's Horses. And here we go. We're going to have another Judge's Duels and have a quick review of the weekend's action. How are you, mate? How was the weekend?
Yeah, very good, mate. Very good. Great to be back on your channel, Judge.
Nice to have you,
good.
mate.
Yeah. Very good, very good. Nice little 5-timer at Newcastle, but I obviously won't go on about
that.
No,
that's brilliant. And I had a couple of in the Judge's Hammer bet. I had a couple of winners, a non-runner and 2 placed. So it was a good weekend. So long may they continue.
Cheltenham starts a fortnight tomorrow. About that for a little Monday morning stat.
Oh, exciting, isn't it?
Yeah, great times. Right, yeah, okay, mate. I'm ready with my
I suppose we want to get started, but I don't know. There was some good action at the weekend, wasn't there? There's a bit of both. Newcastle, you had Kempton. There's decent meeting at Chepstow, actually, to be honest, as well. And a bit of all-weather action. We'll be having a duel later on the all-weather. I think it's important to keep your eye on that because there is still some duels about.
Definitely.
I think we both agree on the first one, don't we? We both agree on one for the Judge's Duels, and I think we should go for that one first.
We just realised that when we've put the list.
Yeah, so I think we'll crack on with the first one. Should we do a quick little review of the TV races? Shall we have a little run through? What did you make of the juvenile hurdle? I just think it just basically comes down to the fact the Irish horse is a different class to ours, don't you think?
Well, I think the key phrase is what the commentator said, which I think was Simon Holt, who, as they were starting, he said, it's a very, very bad day for English trainers and horses if Nusret wins, because it's nowhere near the best in Ireland. And you knew as soon as he said that what was going to happen, didn't you?
Well, that's why I fancied it, to be fair, because you kind of looked at the Irish form, and obviously Comfort Zone had come over here and beaten our horses. I know they haven't beaten them by far, but they've beaten them comfortably, if you know what I mean. It's one of those ones that seems to just do enough, the horse. If it was a handicapper, you'd say that'll win again, you know what I mean? It just keeps just doing enough, and obviously Nusret wasn't a million miles behind that. That's why I kind of fancied that. But like you say, I can't have an English horse really. I think the second is probably, you could argue, the best, the Perseus Way, probably is the best of the English, that or Scriptwriter so far. And they're Boodles types really, aren't they?
What did you think of the appalling run from Scriptwriter?
Just didn't jump, did he? Made some shockers. He just never really travelled, did he? He's been such a consistent horse this year. I just think it's an off day. I do remember the Harris horse doing something similar last year. Night Salute ran one bad race before Cheltenham, and actually then ran badly at Cheltenham, then ran very well at Aintree. So I forgive him one bad run. He's a sort of type Scriptwriter that might nick a place in the Triumph, but I can't have it any better than that. I think it's more likely to come fourth or third at best, really. What do you think?
Yeah, no, it was too bad to be true.
It was too bad to be true, really, wasn't it? I mean, it was never travelling. It was beat so far out, and it just didn't jump, did it? Just kept, So there we go. I thought Solo was an impressive winner, but I did like the run of That's All Right Gino in the Grade 2 Pendle. I thought, that for me didn't look like it really wanted to go right-handed. That's All Right Gino, just jumping out to its left. He's definitely got a handicap in that, don't you think, after his previous second-to-stage start? I think that's 2 good runs back-to-back for those. But bearing in mind, I've already put it up as a duel. I couldn't do that again.
No, there's 2 stories there, and one that we'll come on to for another race, but was Cobden's aggressive riding on good ground. Was kind of a joy to behold. And Solo, a horse with a huge reputation, a couple of years ago, not really delivered on it, but who knows, maybe now. But the other angle was that the horse you just mentioned, That's All Right Gino, and Boot Hill, the form line there, one of them appears to be progressing, That's All Right Gino, and if you look at their previous run, Boot Hill looks to me like a horse that has had a lot of hard races already.
Yeah. Ties in with Alcaris, doesn't it, as well? Both of them do. That ran well.
That was a hard race. That was a tough race. The race at Christmas was a tough race. He looks like a horse who maybe is in need of a a decent break now. I didn't think he travelled, and again, that'll have taken a lot out of him on Saturday. So
Yeah.
I'd maybe be looking to be against Boot Hill if he's out again, even reasonably quick.
Yeah, I think that seems fair enough. I think that was quite apt, the name of the horse, Solo, because it seemed to be given a solo in the lead, didn't it? Jumped beautifully, but did get given an easy lead. And funny enough, we were going to come to the next race. Once again, he nicked it from the front again, didn't he? It's almost like the old Pipe and Scudamore days, isn't it? Nichols and Cobden. They get out and get at the front. They don't see which way they go on Rubo. And I think that's where we're going to come with our first duel, isn't it?
Yeah, well, Rubo was in my Lucky 15 on Saturday, as was Kitty's Lads. It was a nice double. So I was pleased to see the other jockeys for, like you say, not the first time in the day, quite happy to let Cobden make his own running.
Yes.
I mean, I do wonder sometimes when they come in and the owners are there, the second and third or whatever, whether one of them just say to the trainer, why do you allow a soft lead on fast ground on a speed track?
Yes.
And what the sort of counter argument is against what Cobden's doing. And it is a new thing they started doing this year, really. Like you're right, the old Pipe Scoo thing all over again, isn't it? Pipe always says you can give weight, can't give ground. If somebody will give you an easy lead, take it.
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
I thought Rumbo jumped really, really well. That's not our eye catcher, but I thought... No. I don't think it was the greatest renewal of this.
No, I think that's fair.
Years gone by, the Dovecot and the Adonis were serious Cheltenham trials. If we're honest now, they're not anymore.
No, but there was a good winner last year in Auckland Risk.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, the mighty Auckland Risk.
Yeah,
I thought Rumbo was good, but obviously we'll come on that. It's the second that we are having as an eye catcher, isn't it, Joe?
Absolutely, and I'm like you. I thought against a race bias. I thought Mullenbeg was a massive eye catcher. Don't forget she's a mare as well against Geldings. I think back in mare's company or stroke back in a handicap company. I think obviously the handicap was probably going to give her £2 or £3. I should think for this run. But she was a really good bumper horse last year, and you got to give it to Milton Harris. He got her in off a really low mark earlier on this season. Now the handicap would give her such a low rating to start off with. And she quickly got a treble up, hat trick up. She won 3 races quite quickly, and then I think went to the well one too often. Don't you think at Cheltenham she was a little bit disappointing, but she came back here and run a really good race. I don't think she's good enough to win the Mayor's Novice Hurdle, which she's entered for, but I think she's a type that could definitely win 1 or 2 handicaps.
My angle is I like the way I think a bit of sort of better ground helped her.
Yes.
She took a very keen hold. And I know Jonathan Burt seemed to really struggle with her first couple of furlongs. So she did, when you consider that, she did well to finish how she did.
Yeah.
But I think, like you, I would like to see her off a low weight in one of these big handicaps.
Big field.
Cheltenham or Aintree, rather than see her going in the Open Mares Company. Although, it all depends what they want to do. But I think she'd be on a dangerous mark still. I think Rubod's obviously a classy type, but you look behind, there's some decent horses like Hansard, Imperial Bead, Yucatango. That would be strong form if you were to turn up in a handicap at a festival, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would. It definitely would. And also, like Rubo, actually, I fancied for the Betfair Hurdle, pulled his chance away a couple of weeks earlier.
Yes.
But don't forget what price that went off for that handicap. And that was probably the most, I think it is the most valuable handicap over 2 miles that's run in the calendar year, if you like. So that's got to be half sensible form. And she travelled to it and she got to him and she did trade very short in the run. And I think just making that ground up off a slow pace, and obviously the fact she pulled so much earlier cost her the race. But if you look back 12 lengths back to Yucatango, who has okay form, ties in at Cheltenham. I know it was pulled up on its previous start in a Grade 1, but I don't think he's Grade 1 material to say the least. But he's just quite a solid yardstick, really, isn't he, to the form? And they were well clear.
Yeah. No, I think she's got a big race in her. But I just hope, like you, that they go down the handicap route.
Definitely. Well, so we both agree on one there. So maybe one less dual than normal, if you like. But I'm gonna my main one, if you like, for the weekend. Ran actually at Newcastle, and we've got to have a quick chat about Christian Williams. Is this man a target trainer or what? He does tend to, and he did nothing wrong with Kitty's Light really. He ran. It's been running its race, and the handicap has been very generous dropping him. It's not like he's been questionable with it. This one has actually been running pretty much, you could argue, at a trip slightly short of his best throughout the season, and now it gets stepped up to 4 miles. He's a stayer, isn't he, Kitty's? He's a quite stayer. Took a few fences with him, but won the race. I like his runner in the last race that ran in the last race. It was called Tonto Foley, and this is his first. This is his first going handicap company on Saturday. It's rated 77, right? If you look at his point-to-point run, it was giving Deep Cave a very good run, and Deep Cave ran at the Dublin Racing Festival, obviously in a Grade 1, came 5th. Only got beaten a few lengths in a Grade 1 race. It's a sort of mid-130s horse, and this horse in a point-to-point was giving it a right good race. And here we are, 3 runs later over hurdles, and the handicap was giving him a mark of 77. Right, anyway, enough said about the marks. I think that's very generous. He pulled all the way round. Jumped far too big, jumped like a chaser actually. So he looked like he'd be brilliant going chasing. And basically went 2s on in the run, looked short to win and just emptied after the last. And if this doesn't win 2 or 3 handicaps, I'll be very surprised. And I think we could be talking about horse rating in the hundreds next year. I don't know what you think, but I don't know if you remember the race at all. But
yeah. I mean, it raced very free, but I'm sure they'll work on that at home. I mean, he'll have some plan, won't he? But you're right, the back form's there. But it lost so much ground by jumping so steep, didn't it?
It did. It jumped too big over the hurdles, but like you say, it jumped like a chaser to me over a hurdle. So
they may go chasing sooner rather than later. Then
could well do. But he's definitely one that's well handicapped off a mark of 77, and it can't go up either because obviously it's come 4th. It's got well beat.
No, I mean the strength of the gamble on Kitty's Light kind of reiterates they are a serious operation when the money's down.
And they're also A, when the money's down, and B, when the value of the race is worth winning. It's either one or the other. I find with them.
Yeah.
And you could argue Captain Audit's 1 run too many after winning a valuable race the week before.
I was surprised that ran. I was very surprised that ran.
Yeah, I think they kind of, because it still was out the handicap, and I feel that they had to. And speaking about that race, I thought it was a terrific run from Frodon, considering she decided to run around the M25 instead of running up the rail. I thought that was a great run from him in that race on Saturday. And I know he's got beat 10 lengths, but she went right round the outside, all the way around on a tight track. Surely that's not the place to be. Not on good ground.
On either ITV or Racing TV, that at least merited discussion.
Yes, I thought so. I don't know why she didn't tuck. So it's the front run. She tucked in behind the first 2 after the first 2 jumps. But she went round the outside, and you could argue Harry Skelton went a bit too soon on Flegmatic, couldn't you? He got a bit carried away there and just got picked up over the last by our power.
Well, Frodon off that mark off 12 stone.
What an horse.
I would imagine the last comment from Nichols or his assistant, whatever, wouldn't have been go really wide and make sure you give weight to everything and run further than everything. I can't believe that was the... If Frodon all of a sudden has to be ridden very wide on the track, then I find that odd. But if that's the case, I would be interested to hear Nichols, in his Betfair column or in an interview say, if anybody's wondering why it runs in the middle of the track and run, like that, is because we've decided it has to. That's fair enough. You know that then if you're going to bet it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't remember it winning the King George like that, do you?
No, and I've watched it like many people, many different race courses, brilliant, and I've never seen it as this horse that needs to run isolated, never. But if that's the case, I think if for the rest of his career, how many runs it's got left, and it may not be that many. I mean, it would be nice to know that, wouldn't it? Certainly, it would put me off.
Oh, yeah, it definitely is. I mean, if I'd have known that, I must confess he was more a place bet than he was a win bet. I just think he ran he ran much better than getting beaten 11 lengths suggests, personally.
Yeah.
I think he would have been involved in the finish. He might well have come third, but he'd have been with the front two jumping the last if he was given a more conservative ride up the rail, in my opinion.
But had you read a column on Friday night or one of the jockey columns and said, just to point out, we will run it in the middle of the track because we've decided that's what it needs, would you still have bet the horse?
No, I wouldn't. No, I wouldn't, because you could, instead of being a 10-to-1 chance, he become a 25-to-1 chance, really, didn't he? I mean,
well, I highlighted a horse called Oscar Elite, and I
was going to mention that. Yes, that was the other way around, wasn't it?
My fury, if you like, or my frustration, be better than fury, of why that horse was ridden identically off big weights and handicaps. And at Cheltenham, if you remember, he just got done, and the next year he ended up being third, and he covered so much more ground than the others.
Yes.
Well, it was said after that, it needs to run isolated. Now, if you think about it, it then ran in a small runner field, and it was an eye catcher, but it proved my point that it was much better than its form.
Yeah.
Because in a 2-3 runner race, it doesn't really matter, does it? If you're on the
that's
outside.
right. It's nearly isolated anyway, isn't it?
It's on the outside, and of course it dotted up 9-1 into 6, didn't it?
Yeah. In a Grade 2 race.
If it goes back to Cheltenham, I wouldn't be suggesting anyone bet because they'll do the same thing again.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'll be amazed they don't.
As punters, if we've got information that something is going to happen, you've got an informed choice. I couldn't believe Frodon, how he managed to still be placed.
It was for me. I thought it was a terrific run.
An athletics track, and we've done this analogy before, but it was highlighted again. If you were at an athletics track, you wouldn't deliberately line up on the outside, and that's why the 200 meters is graded, isn't it? So you run the same distance. Well, a racetrack, particularly a tight one, is exactly the same.
Because nearly in Kempton, you're nearly always on the turn, aren't you?
Yes, you are, and if you think about it, to make ground while the others are turning on the inside, to stay level with them, you have to run quicker. Yeah,
I agree. I mean, you can certainly upgrade it minimum 5 or 6 lengths. I think that's at a minimum. So
but my sort of the following point is, if this is what's going to happen, then I'm afraid for the first time really in all these years I've been betting him in all sorts of races. He's been around a long time. I'm just going to be cheering him on from now on because logic tells me it's going to be very hard if it's a handicap off top weight. He's going to be in any handicap, and if it's an open, graded race, a group race if you like, it's going to be even harder to give every other horse ground.
Absolutely.
So, one of them things. But something might come out that, like I say, the Tizard horse, we were told that Cobden had to ride it like that at Cheltenham. So that's fair enough, as long as we know that.
It'd be nice to know, and I agree. It doesn't hurt to say things like that, does it?
No. Information is our greatest sort of ally, isn't it, as punters?
Absolutely. So what's your second one then, mate?
Yeah, my second one. Yeah,
that's ran over.
Off Bryony Frost Christmas card list.
Join the club.
I don't think we were on it, to be honest. 520 Kempton. It was a National Hunt flat, a bumper, and I do like when big priced horses win for top trainers. I'll explain why. This one opened at 10-1, went out to 16. It's a little bit of late spot. East India Express. How many times over the years do you see Nicky Henderson win the bumper at Kempton? Answer, lots. He has a 40% strike rate with him. However, you don't really see him at 14-1. I've never seen anything above like 7-2. Now, the reason was he had another one in the race. Excuse me, Iolus Damu, who actually drifted 7-2 out to 6-1 and ran like a horse that didn't get a trip. And this was his outside. I don't think they were pulling some clever coup. I think what was told on Sunday was that East India Express was very much regarded as the longer term project, and they thought would really need this race and would come on a ton for it. Well, if they're correct, and this horse will come on a ton, then they've got a seriously classy horse, because I was really impressed. He's won 6 lengths. Forget the price. This is a well-bred horse. Sam Twiston Davis
Yeah.
rode it, who's riding very well at the moment. I think this is one to follow because, even this form would be good. But
Yeah.
if they're right, it's by Milan. It's well-bred. I just wonder what they'll do with this now. Whether there was talk that they might consider the Aintree bumper.
Flat track again. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think this is really one for the notebook because when a horse wins at this price that's well bred from a good yard, you know that there is a reason they think there's either loads of improvement or it's a longer term project. So this will have surprised them, but in a nice way. So
absolutely. And I
get it on your list.
I think this race actually is going to prove quite useful. I think because the fourth at form. The second ran well in a really point-to-points form, which had been working out, and obviously Chris's horse ran a cracker, Highway 105.
Yes,
and I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure Goodwin ran in this race a couple of years ago, and I can't remember what won it, but I think it's a Henderson horse won that. It was quite a good one. I can't remember what it was off the top of my head, but I do think this could end up being quite a useful little bumper, and certainly one to for winners for the future.
Yeah, well, I mean, like you say, it looked a decent field on paper, but the winners absolutely
it's won easily, very much so.
Yeah.
And like you say, wouldn't have gone off 14-1 if they thought they had a superstar there. So the chances are it's not been showing a long-term project.
Guys were writing things like unfurnished will come on for the run. That might all still be true. Remember?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, just because they won doesn't mean it's that. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so there's a lot more to come for this, and already one impressive win on the board.
Yeah, definitely a horse that so I think if you keep an eye on the first three in that race, I'd be surprised if you don't get, like say one or two of them come out of that race and actually improve significantly for it. My final duel, I'm going to the all-weather because I like to keep my eyes on the all-weather, and I don't know if you watched any of the racing Saturday. A real frustrating thing for me is the jockeys keep when you've got a dead rail up the rail, they keep going up the rail, and it's almost like they're treading in treacle. And they come down the outside, big time on Saturday. Anything that went up the rail stopped turning up the home straight. It's uncanny. And the point I'm coming to, there's a maiden race which I fancy a horse called Garrick Street in it. Its form had been franked. The second and the winner and the third had all come. The fourth had already come out and one next time out.
It was the 3:15.
It was the 3:15, yeah. So it's a bang solid yardstick, and there was real good whisper for a horse called Burglar, who, let's say, had been showing himself off, I think, in the paddock allegedly. But the way they backed this horse, they suggested this could be a good one. Well, turning into the home straight, there was three of them well clear, and the actual horse that was travelling the best was in third, a horse called Dream Pirate, which was my eye catcher. Trained by TJ Kent and ridden by Andrea Azzini. And for some reason, instead of switching wide, Andrea, he went up the rail. And as soon as he went up the rail, he seemed to start slowing down. Now, it might have been the fact he needed the run, but I think it's a combination of needing the run, running up the rail, bit of everything, ended up certainly losing second place. It was easily the second best horse in the race. That's his second run, and that was a big improvement on his first run. Whether they get one more run into it for a handicap is another matter. But I will be very surprised if this doesn't either win a maiden race or certainly win a handicap or two. If you watch the race back, he travelled all over the front two in that race and then went up the rail and see what happened. But if you watched anything that went up the rail on Saturday, they weren't involved in the finish, put it that way. They literally stopped and then it come down the outside. But why they go up the rail, I have no idea.
I thought for a minute you were going to say that Burglar had stole the race.
I left that one for you, mate.
Little things. You see, Bryony Foss would counter. I'm moaning about her going wide. You're now moaning about him going up the rail. Had she ridden in the race, she would have been right on the outside. You'd have been fine.
You get us into more trouble. But honestly, you can't, especially as this was like the 3:15 as well. So it wasn't like. I mean, I'm glad I wasn't on that one because you feel like, what, you've been watching the racing all afternoon or what? And you're talking about a top jockey here. You're not talking about a £7 claimer. And of course, if a £7 claimer does it, they often go, "Oh, look at this! What's he doing? Or what's she doing?" But it wasn't the wisest thing to do. Put it that way. But I think you could. mark this horse up and make sure he's in your track and keep an eye on him, because I don't think that'd be a bad race. I'd be amazed if Burglar isn't half a decent horse. You know, the second is almost certainly a mid-70s horse, for sure. So, you know, I say the winners won quite comfortably in the end, but I think the third is definitely a mid-70s plus horse. So he might end up getting in off the low 70s in a handicap, or alternatively win their maiden and then be better than that. But he's travelled like a, you know, sort of 80 plus horse. Yeah.
Well, he's in my tracker, Judge.
Good man. Okay. Anything else you'd like to report before I close the show off?
Not really. Like I say, Chomps, that's fortnight tomorrow, but we've got loads of winners hopefully before then. And you will be back with me on Friday because you're now 4-0 up in.
We did. That was. This is like the thing. Well, very quickly, like we studied that race. We couldn't have the Venetia Williams horse on our mind at 11-8, and it's one of them races where actually, you know, you can be right but wrong. So we were wrong to take the horse on, but we were right to take the horse on at 11-8, weren't we?
Yeah, I mean
what did it win at? Was it 7-2 or 3-1? It won at, I think. Yes, it's won at 7-2. So if you look at the race when the horse is 7-2, you might have a different view of the race.
Yeah, definitely.
So it wasn't. Look, we were right. It wasn't an 11-8 chance. And then what did we do? We did our usual, have the second and third.
Yeah. Well, there you go. I mean,
so we're not far away. We'll
do it all again on Friday, mate.
Yeah. So be lucky with all your bets this week. Start having a look at those Cheltenham races and get yourself warmed up.
Yeah, we'll be back very soon.
All the best. Judge. Be lucky.